more you understand about the laws of universe, more you understand about the laws of the living universe, and the interaction of living universe with what we consider is non-living, and slowly we are realizing that non-living is very much an integral part of living. So the moment that understanding grows, that much incremental understanding of environment also needs to be figured out in our governance, in our environmental administration, and concurrently also in our policy and law. So, and that is what is the effort of the legal community, which is working in close cooperation with science and engineering community related to environmental protection, because they know that the only superficial meaning of environment or superficial meaning of pollution will not really give them a piece of legislation that can actually be implemented in a meaningful way. There are two things that the environmental governance would like to address or aim at. One thing is obviously the person who is committing crime should be stopped. The agency which is committing crime should be stopped. A community which is not abiding by the rules should be stopped. Fine. But that is, I think, far more obvious and superficial function of law. The next function of law is basically to transition from the business as usual, that what we are doing today in name of development, in the name of giving better transportation, in the name of giving adequate water supply, much higher quality drinking water, much better treatment of wastewater. All these have analogues in law, that you will have to probably translate those things into legal framework. Only then public finances and public policies can be made, and then you can hold communities and individuals responsible and accountable for right or wrong. So it is a much larger and much bigger responsibility the environmental governance community is taking on upon its shoulders, and obviously far more interdisciplinary, and especially incorporating the science, technology, and social implications of environmental protection will have to be taken into account. And therefore the term environment and environment related activities are now expanding into resources management, expanding into right and wrong, morality, then how much can be done in techno-economic manner, is it feasible, those questions are asked, and is it fair, and therefore what is justified, what is essential, these questions are asked. So far more fundamental and far more intricate questions have been now posed when we are assessing any model of development or any managing any kind of change in society. And as you know, that change is the only permanent thing that we have in this universe, and obviously we have to create a situation where the change is managed in the least damaging way to the ecosystem and to the environment. And there are no two opinions about it anywhere in the world, and the Indian environmental framework has incorporated this sensibility very firmly in it. And you will probably learn more about it subsequently, that the Environment Protection Act of 1986 was a clear fruit of that commitment that India has always shown from 1974 onwards, when the first environmental legislation was passed in free India, with very healthy debate in both the houses. The honorable Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and the respective states also expressed their opinions very firmly, and a lot of discussion took place all over the country at both the Legislative Assembly of the states to the important houses in Delhi, and that's how the law was passed in 1974. That was more restricting to water, however. But slowly we realized that we need to have a much broader legislation, and therefore the Environment Protection Act of 1986 was passed. sometime we will take opportunity in coming few weeks, and we will try to address those international and national events and processes and agencies and civil societies actions that essentially navigated the state governments, various state governments in the world, to take pro-environment stand and be proactive in terms of articulating broader legislation and create a more strong agency to implement it. So all these kind of changes are most definitely reflective of the international mood with respect to what we consider is desirable, what we consider is minimum, what we consider is essential, what we consider is acceptable, what we consider is not acceptable, below average, below acceptable. All these connotations are connected to the environmental performance and seriousness in implementing environmental regulation. Obviously, better acts, more thoughtful actions. All countries going into comparable regimes. All these sort of not exactly identical, but up to some extent uniformity and accepting certain cardinal principles in a broad framework. So all these things are happening very enthusiastically in world. And 1980s was really the hot period, which essentially led to that kind of discussion all over the world. And obviously, India being one of the largest democracies of the world, and we have had some of the finest elected representatives who were very scholarly, very conscientious about the pollution on earth, who saw world as one community and wanted India to leap into the international international arena as one of the important players in maintaining a deliberate action and equilibrium with respect to environment, stop degradation, not only at national but also hope contribute in international efforts of stopping pollution. These are the kinds of aspirations of Indian political leaders who were very visionary and who tried to bring India to truly towards 21st century. Those were the people who brought this whole discussion to forefront, seeing that whole world community is interested. And we will have some opportunity to discuss and take stock of the events in India and events in international on international platforms, and how India sees the opportunity and always try to remain a world leader in terms of environmental protection. And how the aspirations of young and aspirations of the civil society, citizen-based organizations, NGOs, non-government organizations, how environmental activists, how they are trying to all the time show lacunae, shortcomings of India's program, and how this entire democratic process is helping us in going towards a better environmental future, better ecological preservation. I think is a very interesting thing to appreciate. While always when you take a more broad historic perspective, and when you are looking at a much wider canvas, there would be many desirable and many undesirable things. But that is a part of the reality, and it will be true in any part of the world. It is not only one country or other, but it will be true in any part of the world. The Honorable International Court itself in The Hague is in evolutionary mode when it comes to addressing issues such as civil liberty, such as ecological conservation, such as right and wrong in terms of environmental pollution, such as one country's pollution going to other country and affecting it, such as the somebody's pollution going into middle of ocean where there may not be anybody living, but environmental system will be at threat when that happens. So there are many things which people are trying to look at in very open mind and in a very non-partisan way. What I'm trying to say is that it is not a political issue, but it is more social, it is more quote unquote sustainability issue. So I think we will have opportunity to discuss more about this international event. What is sustainability all about? How are human beings figuring out into the entire, figuring in the entire debate, and how should we really chalk out our strategy? so that certain things are definitely done and certain things are categorically not done, and then we try to sort of remain with the flow of international community, so that the overall effectiveness of mankind is there. After all, India provides home to every sixth person in the world. So 1/6 of the world's population is our population. So obviously our responsibility is tremendous, and historically and culturally we are extremely advanced people in terms of how we view our role vis-a-vis the what we draw from environment, ecology, and I think we need to see that in a much larger perspective. This country has 10,000 years of known history. So we obviously there's a lot of writing, a lot of thinking has gone into this even in ancient times. So in that sense, I think our responsibility is much bigger, and I'm very happy to observe here that there is a very serious effort that is going on, especially last 30-40 years. So the Environment Protection Act of 1986 defines the environment as: environment includes water, air, and land, and the interrelationship which exists among and between water, air, and land and human beings, other living creatures, plants, microorganisms, and property. So basically, the integral part of natural environment and their interrelationship between all living creatures is essentially the whole game, which is covered under the broad term as environment. So the water, air, land, and interrelationship of these things with the human beings and other living creatures like plants, microorganisms, and also even the property, because heritage is a very important part of the environmental debate. That therefore heritage structures and the structures that are required for human quality of life, such as airport, such as railway tracks, such as homes, such as industries, if you create a situation where huge corrosion takes place and those structures are not safe anymore, or you are leading to some kind of activities which will create explosion or huge accidents or fire, which will compromise the safety of the structures itself, then obviously it will become a very negative action in the direction of preserving environment, maintaining the right proportion of development and protection of environment, because one otherwise will cut into other if we are not very careful. So the definition in Environment Protection Act of 1986 is quite telling about what we consider important when it comes to environment, that other living creatures have equal place with human beings, and we have seen during last two classes that almost all world community is essentially taking that stand, and more we understand about the ecosystem, we are saying that not only human beings but also all animals and sometimes very small living forms such as the microorganisms and insects also have a great role to play, and various microplants have a great role to play in maintaining the equilibrium in the universe. So we probably will go now into various aspects of the environmental pollution, because we so far talked very briefly about what is environment in Indian framework. Now we are looking at what is environmental pollution in Indian framework. Again, I am invoking the definition given in or description incorporated in the Environment Protection Act of 1986, which is saying that environmental pollution means the presence in environment of any environmental pollutant. You might think that it is only playing with the word, but it is not, because pollution and pollutant are two different words, and it is essentially showing the true meaning of what is pollutant and what is pollution. That if the presence of environmental pollutant is there, then that particular action will be called as environmental pollution. So that is what essentially the legal definition says. Environmental pollutant means any solid, liquid or gaseous substance. Now we have to define what is environmental pollutant, because we have talked about presence of pollutant will lead to pollution. That's what we are saying. Now we are basically saying what is a pollutant. That environmental pollutant means any solid, liquid or gaseous substance present in such concentration as may be or tend to be injurious to environment. Now you might even ask me, what about microorganisms? Why you are not mentioning that? And what about fire? Why you are not mentioning that? And what about some explosion or something, tsunami or something? Why we are not including that? So there are various ways by which pollutants are decided. Many of these things like tsunami, like fire, these are not substances, but these are processes, these are events. You will quickly realize. So you cannot probably put them in the same league of pollutant. But then, as a result of those events or those, those, those accidents or those catastrophes, you would have certain composition, concentration of the pollutants changing in the environment, and therefore in that sense there will be pollution creating events that that a particular explosion takes place, industrial explosion takes place, and releases a particulate matter or releases radioactive pollutants in atmosphere in large quantities, which are essentially embedded or adsorbed onto very fine aerosol mass, such as in Chernobyl case, or which will be the gases which are highly toxic, such as Bhopal accident, or it would be just water in huge quantities which is disrupting the habitat of fishes, and along with fishes and pieces of property, fragments of property and sand and whatever boulders that come in the way, a typhoon or a tsunami will probably come and hit the land and destroy remaining living forms including human habitat. So there could be, it could be natural, it could be man-made, it could be accidental, it could be episodic, it could be happening every particular procession that takes place, every function, every social event that comes when we are, bursting crackers and we are burning, the ornamental fireworks. You are creating that kind of pollution. So it may be intentional, it may be non-intentional, it may be periodic, it may be aperiodic, it may be accidental, it may be deliberate, it may be by us or it may be by nature, but it is pollution. So essentially it comes down to the definition of pollutant is essentially coming down to some matrices, some substances that such as solid, liquid or gases in nature, and they are present in such concentrations as may be or tend to injurious to environment. Now whether those solids are living solids such as viruses, whether they are living solids such as bacteria, whether they are isolated or whether they are in mixed culture, whether they are intentional or whether they are outbreak of some disease, whether they are transported by vector or whether they are transported through air because of simple biological warfare, or whether they are some kind of chemical pollutants which are released because of irresponsible industrialization, in the irresponsible emission of air pollutants, or it may be simply our lifestyle that we are emitting so much amount of NOx and SOx and particulate matter through the tailpipes of our vehicles, that because of the solar radiation and the photochemical activities that take place in planetary boundary layer, you are going to create huge amount of ozone, and that ozone, basically excess of ozone near ground, is going to be a threat to your existence and your health. And the other entities that you emit, such as chlorofluorocarbon or ozone depleting substances, that will go slowly out of your planetary boundary, it will go to troposphere and then stratosphere, and then there they will try to so to speak cooked in the pressure cooker of top atmosphere, and have a lot of photochemical reactions and many precursors which are generated in primary and secondary pollution, which will go and have a longer retention time there. And because of such long retention time, they may be, number density may be very low, but the time duration is very long, and then they will have tremendous degradation of ozone, which is essentially an important layer to protect us from the cancerous radiation reaching the ground. What other provisions are there which will help me in protecting environment? So most certainly Indian environmental legal framework is so broad and so robust that even in absence of environmental laws, the judiciary was able to address environmental crimes, environmental wrongdoings, and they were bringing people to justice. Not that it is only environmental laws. So we will try to sort of deal with it in some time later. Good point. So coming to now one by one, for example, water pollution, the environmental, the water pollution basically, it is not talking about a particular matrix which is polluted, but it is basically talking about the ambient water outside in nature, in open, how that is affected because of the pollutants in water. I think that is the discussion point here. It is not that what in water can be called as pollution. So it is not only the entity, but also the process and the interrelation between them. I think that everything is put together, is defined in this definition, water pollution. Water pollution means such contamination of water or such alteration of the physical, chemical or biological properties of water, or such discharge of any sewage or trade effluent or of any other liquid, gaseous or solid substance into water. So we are not saying only water has to be only related to liquid pollution. There are also gaseous pollutants and solid pollutants which may be mixed in water and then finally will cause water pollution, whether directly or indirectly. Even that also is included here, as may or is likely to. You don't have to wait until pollution takes place and only then you curtail it, or only you then regulate it, or only then you stop it using the authority. But even if there is a potential threat, then also it is definitely a part of water pollution related discussion, as may or is likely to create a nuisance or render such water harmful or injurious to public health or safety or domestic, commercial, industrial or plants or of aquatic organisms. So all the logical, obvious, permitted uses of water, if something that is interfering with that, then obviously that particular thing will be called as water pollution. So it is not only a particular so much of BOD, so much of dissolved pesticide, or so much of suspended particulate matter, or this microorganism, but not that. That kind of specificity obviously is not incorporated in the legislation which is called as the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1974. And typically you might have noticed that some of the words that you may like to delete while giving a short name, the short name of the act is the Water Act.